Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hi, how you doing? Welcome to the program. It is what it is. It's also the last day of January, and this marks the 100th anniversary of the birth of a great man, Jackie Robinson. Just want to point that out. And if you're a fan, you might want to pick up New York Times today, hard copy, because they've got a big standalone section on Jackie Robinson, and is good, filled with wonderful pictures and commentary and history, and it's good. So, just saying. The polar vortex has emptied the streets. It's wonderful. I mean, you can drive anywhere real fast. You can. I mean, I feel like I got the town to myself. I like it. Walked the dog yesterday, and I had my entire neighborhood, but there was not another human being. I think only one car passed. Wow. So I have to tell you that part of, getting through these cold winter months and is that we sort of hunker down in our homes more than we normally do, and that's certainly true of me. And I find myself binging on television, which is, I feel like I'm wasting my life when I do that, and yet I try not to be too hard on myself. But yesterday, I watched 2 movies in a row that are classics, I guess, that I realized I have never seen. I started with one, and I thought, I saw what it was. And I thought, as if I'd seen it and didn't want to see it again. And then as I watched it, I thought, you've never really watched this thing. So I did. And then there was another one on, and I can't believe I never watched either of these movies. I'll tell you what they are. I'm an old movie buff, so this is from Turner Classic Movies. I watched first Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte. That's a movie starring, I think, truly one of the greatest actresses of all time, Bette Davis, and Olivia de Havilland, Sweet Melanie from Gone with the Wind. Olivia de Havilland playing an evil person, which has to be a first. I don't know. And I have to tell you, I normally don't like movies like that. Totally got into it. And then the next one was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Again, Bette Davis. And another actress who she hated. These 2 women hated each other, Joan Crawford. And I have to say, I'd never seen that either. And wow, are those 2 incredible actresses. They really are. And I would say that's a good movie, even though it's not my kind of movie. I hate movies where people are torturing each other, but that's what it is. Anyway, have to say, it's so odd to realize that, I always felt like I'd seen the movies because you hear about them so often, and then you realize as you're watching, wow. So, just wanted to say I'm no longer a virgin when it comes to Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte, which is not easy to say. Go ahead, say that a few times fast. Come on. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. Wow. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. Let me try that again. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. That is very hard to say. That's harder than Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. There's a lot of s and sh, and your teeth, tongue, and mouth have to move real fast. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. Anyway, sorry. Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. Jesus. Okay. I'll work on it. Anyway. Paul writes, you had a wonderful day with movies yesterday. Yeah, I did. Joan Crawford was originally cast in the Olivia de Havilland role in Hush Hush. She can play evil better than Olivia de... But, I mean, that's what made it so incredible, because Olivia de Havilland... But Paul writes, but Joan got too big for her britches and they changed the casting. Well, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Anyway, Olivia was just fine because she was startling that she was the bad guy. Oh, and speaking of Olivia de Havilland, I have a slight connection. When I went off to New York at the age of, God, what was I? Maybe 20. Lost, bewildered, but enrolled in to study acting with one of the great acting teachers, Sanford Meisner, at the neighborhood playhouse, which is a feather in my cap, but I can't believe I ever was there, but I was. And in the first year there, there were about 45 of us students. The only one of us who became a name is Jeff Goldblum. But another one of us had the strange name of Dallas. Oh, no, it wasn't Dallas. Yeah, it was Dallas Pell. That was a woman, a girl, young girl, mousy, mousy. I know that sounds sexist. It does, doesn't it? But she was mousy in every way. Her name, Pell, was also the name of a senator at the time, who is the one who gave rise to the Pell Grants, which have helped educate an awful lot of people. So Dallas, I guess, was Senator Pell's daughter. I might be misremembering it and conflating Dallas and someone else, because either Dallas or another mousy person in the class was the daughter of Olivia de Havilland. So it can't be Dallas. Wow, why am I blanking on her name? Why did see how you get old and your memory gets bizarre. Two people become one. Anyway, maybe what I'm thinking of is there were two people in the class that were related to famous people. Dallas Pell, whose father was the senator, and then Olivia de Havilland's daughter, who was another very nondescript, and I can't think of her name. But because there were so few of us in the class, we all, intermingled, got to know each other. And it was from Olivia de Havilland's daughter that I heard, who, by the way, I think is still alive. Isn't she? I mean, she'd be 100 years old, easy, but I think she's still alive. Olivia de Havilland had a famous sister as well, who was also a famous actress, Joan Fontaine. They were siblings. They hated each other's guts. That's what I learned from Olivia's daughter, which later as I read more about the two, absolutely true. And I'm not, from the daughter, I got the sense that Joan Fontaine was a real bitch, but then that's Olivia de Havilland's daughter telling me the story, so I've always sort of wondered. But, so, that's my Olivia de Havilland story. I got mixed up a little with Dallas Pell. I can't think of who they are. Anyway, Aaron is stunned that I've never seen those two movies before. I am too. You know, I assumed I had. I think I'd seen snippets, obviously. But I never watched either from beginning to end. And they're good. Those are good movies. Yeah. So Aaron says, those are two of my favorites. So much fun. The FX series, Betty and Joan, Betty and Joan, was about making those movies. You have to see that one now. It's amazing. Okay, well. Olivia is still alive. She's 102. I think she lives in Paris. Giselle is the daughter. Damn. It's not ringing a bell. Isn't that something? Thank you, though. Thanks for that. Jeez. As for Claiborne Pell, he married someone named Nuala O'Donnell, and they had 4 children. And one was named Nuala Dallas Pell. Well, that's the one I know. Knew. Okay. So, whatever. You cross paths with folks in your life. We have a call. Okay. Hello, caller.
Hi, Lynn Cullen. You touched a nerve. There are some films that I can revisit, and I never get sick of. And Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte. Oh, my God. Isn't there a scene where a head goes rolling down the stairs at one point?
Yes. There is.
Oh, and whatever happened to Baby Jane, that emailer was correct. You would probably, I think, enjoy, I think it's like about 8 episodes. They're all an hour. But that show, I think, Feud, is on Netflix now. And it was really, because it goes into the whole history of their feud, Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, and it goes into Robert Aldrich the director trying to deal with both of them and juggle it. But whatever happened to Baby Jane, my favorite line when Bette Davis goes clomping up the stairs in their robe and those bedroom slippers, and Blanche is watching herself on an old movie,
right.
And she flicks it off, and Blanche goes, "Jane, I was watching that." And Bette Davis looks at her and goes, "You're an idiot." And the other line is Joan Crawford, she's sitting there and she goes, "Jane, you wouldn't do these things to me if I wasn't in this chair." And she goes, "But you are in the chair, Blanche. You are in the chair." Oh, and another one. Oh, and she's calling the liquor store. Bette Davis is calling the liquor store to make her liquor order delivery.
Yeah.
They did that in Pittsburgh. But she's like, 5 bottles of scotch, 3 bottles of vodka, 4 bottles of whiskey. And they're like, "You don't have any credit. Your sister cut you off." And she goes, "Oh, well, let me put her on the phone. It must be a misunderstanding." And then she totally imitates her
Joan Crawford's voice, right.
"Oh, it's a misunderstanding. You should give her the credit." It is so funny, that movie. Another one, which I'm sure you've seen, that I never get sick of, is Sunset Boulevard.
Yes, well, that I have seen a million times. And you're right. You never get sick of it. You never get sick of it.
Yeah, because they're almost like comedies. They're so I don't know what we call them. They're so over the top. They're just hilarious, campy, I guess, almost. They tread the line between being very serious and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But then they're also so campy.
Well, that's true. I mean, they are campy. And, I'll tell you something. For those two, especially for Bette Davis, well, I think she's such a great actress. She was perfectly willing. Think of how hideous they made her look in those movies. And she had no problem with that. And usually actresses from that era did not want to be seen as ugly or old. But those two old war horses, wow. I'm just impressed. And I have to tell you, I mean, both of them are really good actors in that movie, Crawford and Davis. Really good.
Well, they were in their twilight years.
Yeah.
But somehow they still felt that they had something to prove, and they were both trying to outdo each other. There's been a lot written about it, but that series feud does go into to Bette Davis's choice to play the ugly one, and it's just a fascinating story behind the movie. Even it's good, almost as good as the movie. The story about the movie
I was trying to think of both of those roles. Which one is the juicier role, or the more difficult role? And they're both very challenging, actually. I mean, the twist at the end, that extraordinary twist at the end. But Bette Davis, so willing to go over the top in that, is just extraordinary. God, I loved it.
Truly. Now, I subscribed to your email newsletter, and I did not hear this show yet, but apparently you mentioned something about a candle that smells like Kentucky Fried Chicken gravy. But it reminded me, I still have to listen to the show to see what you said about it, but it reminded me that over Christmas, I was at a Walgreens, and they had a Yule log, an actual Yule log, that they said when you put it in your fireplace and burn it, it smelled like Kentucky Fried Chicken. And
are you
kidding? Like, what in the world? No, I'm not kidding. This is a real thing. But here's the best thing. I have to share with you this joke, a Jimmy Kimmel joke. Jimmy Kimmel said the funniest thing. He goes, look, if I wanted a giant log that smelled like Kentucky Fried Chicken, I would just eat a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken and wait a little while.
Oh, God. All right.
All right. With that, I will leave you. Take care, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Somebody sent me a picture of Olivia de Havilland with her daughter, and I got to tell you, man, it rings a vague bell, but boy, she looks beautiful. That's not the way it is her, those big wide eyes. But the name isn't ringing true. It's so odd. Yeah. Whole Swiss cheese in my memory banks. Oh my God. I probably don't remember more than 8 names from that whole bunch. Isn't that weird? Can you name? I mean, go back to your 5th grade class. Go back to your 2nd grade class. Think of those class photos they would have taken. I probably know more of those names, than I would of these, because I think in your younger years, I don't know. What do I know? Hey, I got had today, and I don't like being had. I'm just saying. I'm reading the Wall Street Journal, which is unfortunately something I got to do for my job. And I see page 5 has been given over to somebody bought it. Somebody bought page 5, and it says an open letter to anyone who will listen. Well, that's not bad to get someone's attention. And I note that I read the whole damn thing, okay? Because it was odd. It's a guy named Nick Vitale. He says, first of all, my name's Nick Vitale. I'm 36 years old. I live in Milltown, New Jersey. I don't know if that matters, but I just thought it'd be appropriate for this not to be completely anonymous. Blah, blah, blah. And then he goes into, well, I couldn't figure out why is he, okay. You're probably all ahead of me now because I'm telling you I got had. He goes on to say that everyone's always saying, when you buy something, we want to hear your feedback. You go to you have a doctor's appointment now and you get an email saying, will you please fill out this survey about your recent visit to name the hospital. And I think, screw you. I don't want to. I'm annoyed by this stuff. But, so he goes off on a rant about how when you do sort of give feedback, you get the sense that nobody's really listening. So he thought he would just do some feedback to all these places that are always asking for it. And he does the airlines first, and of course says, I'd rather you just made my ticket what the price is and give me a free meal like you used to. And all that. Just cable companies he goes into. And then he gets on the subject of cheeseburgers. I am generally pleased with the product and service I have received. However, it would be great if you guys could slice the lettuce and tomato thinner so they don't slide out of the bun when I bite into it. It's a little thing, I know, but one that I think would dramatically improve the overall experience. I'm thinking, how does a 36-year-old guy from Millville, New Jersey have the money to do this vanity thing in the Wall Street Journal? And he goes on, maybe it's just me. Every consumer product in America could come with free breakfast and the ability to make one's own waffles. Thanks for listening. I hope it helps. And if any of you wish to discuss this further, please don't hesitate to reach out. Nick Vitale. I read that, and I just sat and looked at it for the longest time and thought, that is so... we've all seen similar things where somebody with the money, can't imagine what a page in the Wall Street Journal costs, would bother to do that. And then I decided I couldn't figure it out, so I turned the page, and there was another page. Do I have that page here? The page that was my comeuppance? The next page, when you turn it, was another one. And this is obviously an open letter to Nick Vitale of Milltown. And here is where, and I don't even understand it, but the whole thing is a 2-page advertisement for Qualtrics and SAP. Don't have a clue what that means, except I guess these two companies are getting together. And now I'll say marketing is interesting. It got my attention, but then it made me feel like a fool. And then I didn't even understand what their business was ultimately. So, but maybe, they weren't aiming for me. God! Do you know how much time I wasted on that? And do you know how much time I just wasted of your life bothering you with it? Sorry. God, I can't get over Giselle. Jesus. Well, listen, it was like 1969 or 70, I don't know, 69. We all looked a little woebegone then. Okay, so, I don't know how interested you'd be in this, but it did make the front page of the New York Times, so clearly you don't have to be from Wisconsin to think this is a big story. I know when I first saw it, I sent it off to my sister and my mom. But this is the story of, again, the extraordinary mismanagement of my home state by the Republican Scott Walker. And they've literally done a good job destroying a once proud progressive state. And we've talked about, Susan and I have talked about this before, how they gave away the store to get this Taiwanese electronics manufacturing giant, Qualcomm, is that what it's called, Qualcomm? I can't even remember. And every time in the last year or so that Foxconn, Jesus, Cullen, God, tune in Lynn Cullen and watch her brain dissipate and molder in real time. Jesus. Anyway, so they gave more money. The state gave more money in billions in incentives to Foxconn to get a plant there in southeastern Wisconsin that was going to make flat screen televisions. And this was such a big to-do that Donald Trump, one of his first things as president, he traveled to do one of those, ceremonial, put a spade in the ground, groundbreaking nonsense, alongside Scott Walker and the CEO of Foxconn. And at the time, Trump said that bringing this to Wisconsin, this project was, get this, the 8th wonder of the world. It ain't happening. Foxconn has said, not happening. Not happening after untold numbers of people were displaced from their homes through eminent domain. The county bought up huge tracts, acreage, and handed them over to Foxconn. They threw these people out of their homes. Granted, they paid them, but people who had no intention of selling their homes or wanting to are now out of those homes to make way for this huge factory. It ain't happening. The 8th wonder of the world, ladies and gentlemen, in the time of Trump. Like so many things, it's simply words. It's simply poof. When Susan and I drive from Chicago up to Green Bay, it's been a longer drive because of the construction that has been going on, infrastructure for this huge factory. Roads, highways being broadened, all kinds of stuff. So, it was constant construction. And it was all for this thing. People displaced, infrastructure put in. This is by the government for this jewel, the 8th wonder of the world. And now the company said, we have reassessed our plans. And there are difficult economics manufacturing in the United States. There's no way we can compete making flat screen television. So they're not. Universities around there, community colleges, revamped their curricula, so that they could train all these folks in southeastern Wisconsin for these manufacturing jobs. Incredible. So this turn runs counter to what Trump obviously was saying about this project. He said, here is what I'm doing for blue-collar workers. He said it was a milestone, one of just the first ones in reversing the history of good manufacturing jobs being lost in the United States. Poof. And it turns out they should have known better, because those of you with good memories might recall that in 2013, Foxconn and the Pennsylvania state government happily announced that Foxconn was going to put a high-tech factory in central PA, I forget where, creating not the tens of thousands of jobs they promised Wisconsin, but 500 jobs. And that was given big to-do and lauded, and I'm sure the skids were greased with taxpayer dollars, and Foxconn pulled out of that, never built it. But Donald Trump and Scott Walker and the give the corporations anything they want Republicans gave him the store. Gave him more than New York gave to get Amazon's headquarters. And by the way, speaking of that, you know that beauty contest that we lost? Since it was awarded to, was it in Queens, I think, and then also in Virginia, there's been big troubles in New York. There have been constant demonstrations against Amazon. And I guess yesterday in the New York City Council, or the Queens Council, I don't know, is there a council in Queens? I think it was just the New York City Council. Amazon sent one of its big guys to subtly threaten New York. Listen to what he said. At the start of the hearing, Amazon's Vice President for Public Policy, Brian Huseman, said this: "We were invited to come to New York, and we want to invest in a community that wants us." And then he went on and said, "We would never want to be part of a community where our employees and our company are not welcome." So it's a veiled threat. Hey, you guys put in a bid. We accepted your bid. Now you're giving us shit. And a lot of it had to do with Amazon is a totally non-union. They are anti-union. Big shock. And New York is a big union town. And the president of the council kept saying, "Will you agree to at least be neutral if workers at your Amazon facility here wanted to unionize?" And Amazon's Huseman said, "No, sir." So Amazon plays total hardball. This is why I am so glad they didn't come here. They're the biggest boys on the block. They know it. They run roughshod over communities, over human beings, over any effort by the part of employees to have any power to unionize. And already they're threatening to take their so-called 25,000 jobs and go somewhere else. You don't want us? You're going to keep up giving us shit here? We'll leave. Whew. Thank God. Oh, that's Foxconn. Michael sends me this. Foxconn is the one with the factory in China where they actually put netting around the entire structure because too many workers were jumping out of the place, committing suicide. Oh, and he checked in on it. The KFC Yule log is sold out. So you can't have it. Although I was, as I said yesterday, I was thinking if those scented KFC gravy candles are available, that could really make a great gift for somebody. Just because I was in, talking about New York, I want to address this story. It is a New York story, but I'm so stunned by it. By finding out, it's been a long time since I've been in the subway in New York, and I do keep reading nightmare stories about the deterioration of service in New York subways. But when we talk about infrastructure and we talk about America's falling so far behind other countries that have nowhere near the resources, the money we do. But America is increasingly a country that does not invest in public things. All the money is going into private pockets. And so we can never in America find the money to do things that help everybody, not just enrich a few. And that would be, of course, something like a subway system, public transit. Here is one of the biggest cities in the world, certainly one of the most iconic, supposedly one of the richest. And the subway system is embarrassing. But what I didn't know, because of the news of this young mother with a child in a stroller having to carry the stroller and everything else she had, walking down those steep stairs into the subway, and she fell. She's dead. The child lived. There was an autopsy report actually that came out today, and it says that they don't think the fall killed her, that she might have in fact had some kind of a medical issue which caused the fall, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because I thought there was this thing called the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. I thought, well, somebody who's in a wheelchair can't get out of the wheelchair, pick it up, and walk down. It is a rare stop on the New York subway that has access for people in wheelchairs or people in any way who would have trouble walking down those steep steps or up those steep steps. How is that even possible this long after that legislation? It turns out that, and why there's no there is a lawsuit. There was one filed in 2017, which asserted that it was one of the least accessible systems in the country, violation, obviously, of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that case, because again, our speedy system of justice and the ability of the transit authorities in New York to hold it up, that is nowhere near getting heard. It's still alive, but there are gaps as large as 10 subway stops before you find a subway that has an elevator. You know, when I ride the bus here, I see so many young women, rare to find a young man, but every once in a while, dealing with 2 or even 3 small children dealing with all their stuff, all her stuff, a stroller. This is her means of transportation. She gets up. She's carrying folded up strollers. She's carrying a child. She's got other two trying to get. And it is not unusual for someone on the bus to help her get on or off, but it is not a surefire thing. So you watch these women with young children and all this, in the winter especially, trying to deal with this. And at least here, there is access. Those buses are available and accessible. How can we pretend to be a major civilized nation and not invest in the kinds of things that lift up all people? Roads, subways, buses. Why? It says so much about us. And I swear, I cannot comprehend how the federal government isn't, I mean, what are they going to do? But I mean, you can't. How do people who are disabled get around in New York City if they rely on the public transit? It's just unbelievable. I mean, wow. Think of the money in Manhattan where this woman died. Think of the money. There's so much money there, you could choke on it. But again, it's just for a few. And the government there doesn't have the money that is in all those private hands, and I guess can't foot the bill. I can't, billions and billions and billions. They can always find the money to give to Amazon. Coles to Newcastle. But they can't build a public transit system. It's really something. Lynn in Ohio says, yeah, well, who uses the public transit system in New York? Poor people. What do you get when you have a service that serves the poor? You get poor service. Well, I think it's not just the poor. I mean, although in New York you can make like $50,000 a year and be poor. I mean, that's not and you're definitely riding the subway. I mean, subways and buses were my sole means of transportation when I was there. And the system, I don't think, has been upgraded. That was in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. I don't think it's unbelievable. Look to where society's priorities are. And it will tell you about what kind of a society it is, if it could be classified as a moral society. And ours cannot. There is no way. We are an immoral society. And proud of it, I guess. Let's go back to Bette Davis. Debbie says, Bette Davis has always been one of my favorite actresses. I heard her tell a story to Dick Cavett about when she was leaving Warner Brothers. And Jack Warner tried to coax her into staying by offering her the lead in a movie based on a book that he just bought the rights to. She said, "Oh, I'll just bet it's a pip." And she stormed out. She said it was the biggest mistake of her life. You're not telling me what the movie was. Gone with the Wind? What was the movie? Gone with the Wind? That if you look at it now, some of these movies, they're so friggin' racist and sexist. It's just mind-boggling. As somebody who watches a lot of old movies, I'm blown away by it. Okay, so guys, let's see what else we got here. Oh, I want to comment on there's a local story about a producer over at the local television station lost his job yesterday because of something he did that aired that he thought was funny. And I guess, yeah, it was, sort of. He put on the chyron, the wording underneath the picture. The picture was of Tom Brady, and he put on the chyron known cheater as an identifier, And he lost his job. They fired him. Bang. And I must say, I do want to say, it's a pretty harsh penalty, but I bet it got a lot of people's attention, which is good. You can't. I mean, what is with people? There's no. Again, this shows the lack of journalistic ethic that's coming out of what? Whatever schools these people go to. Do they get journalism degrees? I don't know. That would have been unheard of. You can't use a news show as a platform for your joke, even if you know that your audience would get a kick out of it, because there's this thing called, that he didn't even think he had to. It's amazing to me. It just shows a lack of basic understanding of the sort of bedrock principle, the bedrock principle of working for a media outlet. And I don't know. I don't know. It was Gone with the Wind. I feel for the guy. I'm sure he'll be, he learned a lesson. And I normally don't take management side in these things, but I am so sick and tired of people not comprehending the responsibility of working in journalism. I don't know. So, it's a big story locally. It's actually got a lot of... I first heard about it on Sports Illustrated's site. Yeah, it was Gone with the Wind. Everybody's telling me. Oh my God, MSNBC has dropped Steve Schmidt, who was, I guess he comes on and he's one of their blowhards and pontificators, although I get a kick out of him. He was the one who ran the campaign, John McCain's presidential campaign, and but it came out the other day that he is also advising Howard Schultz, the ex-Starbucks CEO, on his presidential run. And MSNBC canned him. Let's see what they say. They have reportedly cut ties with political analyst Steve Schmidt because he is advising billionaire Howard Schultz. Yeah, but he's not. He's there as an opinion guy. He's not. It's not the same thing. He's there as the fact that he was McCain's former. I mean, that's his job. That's why they seek out his expertise. That's interesting. All right, Beth writes, I thought how stupid was this producer on so many fronts. Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, sits on the board of Viacom, which owns CBS. Oh, wait. Oh. Well, that's a whole other, maybe screw journalistic ethics, which owns Viacom, which owns CBS. That's a CBS affiliate. I understand his firing came from CBS headquarters. Really? And by the way, Bob Kraft is the owner of the Patriots, Tom Brady's team. Oh, so the plot thickens, huh? Well, we have a caller. Hello there.
Yes, good morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Hey, Lynn, this is something strange I'm thinking about. Remember when you were growing up, they had to draft, and people of age, men of age, went to Vietnam, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were to have a war right now, you know we couldn't do that, right? You know why we couldn't do it? Why do you think we couldn't do it? There's one reason, one big reason. Just it's simple, but think about it. We couldn't do it.
Well, politically, no one politically has
not politically, nothing to do with politics at all.
To reinstitute the draft.
Standpoint, if we reinstituted the draft right now,
no
our
one would.
Country's too fat, too physically fat. They couldn't meet the basic requirements to go to basic training.
Yeah, but they can't even with a volunteer army. They can't find enough people.
No, but I'm saying, but if we said, okay, there's a draft, everybody has to go to the draft, they would not be able to get into the to basic training because you're too fat, you're obese. There's certain standards in the military. When I was in the reserves, you have to meet the requirements of weight standards. If you went overweight, you could be out of the military. So if we were to man it right now, we physically could not do it because we're too effing fat. So we're fat physically, number one.
Yeah.
We're lazy mentally, and we're undisciplined. The country is falling apart at the seams.
Yep.
Not because of any outside of us; it's inside of us.
Of course, we are a culture and a country in decline. And a people in decline. There's no doubt.
Big time.
There is no doubt about it, and we are complicit in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're physically fat, obese. One third obese. That's like super fat. You got 60% obese. So you got roughly 40%? No.
Look, it's the end game. It's the end game of capitalism. They keep selling. They made us into people that they jerk around, and they feed us crap food at really nice prices. So we eat the crap food. They don't pay us enough to buy good food. They don't. I know. So yeah.
It's gonna crumble, and then all the rich people are gonna have all their money. There's gonna be a revolution. You can't keep we. Okay, I hear you.
Okay,
we're worried about all these external forces.
No,
we gotta tighten up our own ship.
Yeah, right.
Please.
We can't build a wall. Yeah, there's no wall gonna help us. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. The enemy is inside. It's
right here.
It's totally here. I know.
They're our saviors, actually. Let them in here. Maybe they can help us out. We can't do it. We need some help, please. Mexico, Guatemala, come up here, please. Maybe you have.
Yeah, bring some non-obese, hardworking people, please, willing to risk their lives. Right. Thank you for.
Away, and we're telling them. We're going to shoot you with tear gas. You come up here. You come in this country. I tell you what we got for you, pal. And you and your kids, you and your daughter, get the hell out of here. Go back where you came from. And if you don't go back, we'll cut your aid to your country. That's what he threatened. He threatened all those Central American countries.
I know.
We're going to shut your aid down. How are you going to deal with that now? What are you going to do now? You come up here again? We'll shoot you back down. I mean, these people got to live. What kind of world are they living in?
I hear you. Hey, thanks. Go take a Xanax. Bye.
I got to.
Yeah, bye. I know reality sucks. Barbara sent me this, essentially about people who have a lot of something. If a man has a house and it's stacked to the ceiling with newspapers and stuff, we call him crazy. If a woman has a trailer house full of cats, we call her nuts. But when people hoard so much cash that they impoverish others, we put them on the cover of Fortune magazine, and we call them role models. Depends on what you're hoarding. You hoard money, as those who think there are betters do. You hoard money, and you're somebody who's going to be lauded, worshipped, envied. Hoard anything else, and you're nuts. Okay. This was in the Times Sunday paper. Pittsburgh's always getting in the... I think this would have been the travel section. And it talks about the fact that there is a citywide initiative celebrating George Romero. And it's called Romero Lives. Is it because I don't get the PG anymore? I didn't know about this. Are you aware of this? A citywide initiative called Romero Lives? According to this, it is an effort to make Pittsburgh a destination for George Romero cult, members. So I don't know. And then they go on. I'm thinking, what would somebody, they come to Pittsburgh, what would they go? And according to the travel section of the New York Times, they immediately leave Pittsburgh and go to Evans City. They go to Evans City, which is described as a suburb of... I don't think of Evans City as a suburb. And I don't think people in Evans City think of Evans City as a suburb. This is the vaunted New York Times travel section. Evans City is in and of, and the reason you go to Evans City is that's where the opening scene, the cemetery, that's where it is. So there's a citywide initiative. And I read this whole thing, and for the life of me, I can't figure out what people are supposed to go see. They're supposed to come, and then they're supposed to go to this Pittsburgh suburb called Evans City. And there it says you can drive around. It really says, hey, Mabel, get the kids. This sounds too good to be true. Hey. You can drive on the road. You can drive on the road in the cemetery. And you can roam among the tombstones. Yeah, I'd book a flight to Pittsburgh to drive on an Evans City Cemetery Road and roam among the tombstones. Also, there's a great picture here of the Monroeville Mall. And it says here, the mall's parking lot and its signage remain mostly unchanged, an instantly recognizable detail that Dawn of the Dead fans will eat up. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, is that true? Does the Monroeville Mall look like it did in the... It pretty much does. There's some more buildings there. The parking lot, So come to Pittsburgh, then drive to Evans City, which is not a suburb, and drive on the roads in the Evans City Cemetery, roam among the tombstones, then go to a failing mall that is in a suburb of Pittsburgh. And the other attraction that they send you to is the must-see for fans is the bronze bust of George Romero at the Monroeville Mall. Be still my heart. I personally, what? Romero Lives kicked off last fall. Who knew? With a roster of events. And still to come are film screenings and academic forums. The George Romero Foundation, here's the most interesting thing. The George Romero Foundation has even started to discuss establishing a national horror movie museum in Pittsburgh. Now that would be a destination. But right now, I don't care if Romero lives, which by the way he doesn't. It just doesn't seem. But they say people in Pittsburgh are dreaming because tourism thrives in, for instance, at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, which inspired The Shining. And let's not forget in New Jersey, Camp Nobisco, which was the setting of Friday the 13th, which in the movie is called something else, Camp Crystal Lake. Yeah, so that's what we're, I just have to say, I read that, and there's no there. It is just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And are we over? Oh, yeah, we are. Okay. All right, guys, that's it from me. We've got, we've got a digital injury here, and Cullen out with a digit. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.